Ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered here together on this most auspicious occasion to do honor to one whom it is a delight to honor, the president of your college, a hard worker, and believe me, a wise one in the vineyard of the Lord. Incidentally, we are to honor architecture, and I think it's time we made some gesture at least in that direction. Because we're beginning to learn that the Word of God is not something in books. We're beginning to learn that the highest and finest kind of morality is beauty, and that there is no culture for democracy, there is no culture for America until it has one of its own. You can't live your entire life on borrowed ideas, borrowed knowledge, a borrowed culture. We must evolve something from within ourselves. And what you see in the good doctor's effort here, and in the aid that I've given him, is really a sincere effort to realize this thing you call the Word of God from within ourselves, for ourselves. And of course, building is the natural way to do it. I don't see how we can consider ourselves as civilized, cultured people if we live ignorant of the nature of our environment, if we do not understand what we do to make it, where the buildings that we live in are false, where they do not represent truth and beauty in any sense, where they are merely stupid or merely copying something not understood. Because believe me, when you understand a thing, you will not copy it. A copycat is a copycat because he does not understand. Now, understanding is love. If you don't understand, you don't love. And out of an understanding of the beauties of nature, using the word nature with a capital N in its true sense, not just as out of doors, but the nature of everything, of a book, of this hand, of anything at all. Nature in that sense, study, and you'll find that the greatest and highest form of ethics. Now, of course, ethics, morality perhaps at the present time has very little in common with ethics. Morality is seldom ethical. But beauty is ethics, high and fine kind of ethics, and so is good architecture. And that's my message here to you today, that these little buildings on this campus are not extraneous to the thought of God, to the thought of good, to this thing you call religion. We need a new religion in this nation. Or at least not a new one, we need one. And we're going to get it by practicing this thing that we call the love of beauty. Now, we don't find it, can't find it outside ourselves. We've got to find it coming out from within ourselves to an outside that we've learned to understand as harmonious and true and beautiful, true to the nature of materials, true to the methods of our day, true to the life of our time, true to the best of our sense of ourselves. Now, you know, most of us have never even met ourselves. We can meet almost everybody else on perhaps their own terms or our own terms, but mighty few of us have ever had a good look at ourselves. Now, the type of architecture that you see standing around you can't mean much to you until you've had a good look at yourselves, until you have tried to find within yourself what these buildings quite naturally represent. The laws of harmony, of construction, of rhythm, of all that is poetic and true to the best in human nature. Now that's the new architecture. That's what we're learning to call organic architecture today. And it's quite proper that we should confess to you that the world has seen very little of it as yet, even in the times when architecture was greatest and highest and most important in human life. Very little of it. It's like a little green shoot in a concrete pavement, trying to take root, trying to be, and depending upon people who were also trying to be for its existence. I don't believe you can build beautiful buildings, that an edifice can rise, except as it comes from within a worthy source. And that source is inevitably the human soul, the human heart. In all America today, especially in our educational institutions, you won't find that architecture coming from within the soul of man. You won't find an architecture with a soul, nor one with a heart. In other words, you won't find a genuine expression of that thing that we talk about so glibly and think that we love to think that we have, which is democracy. Democracy needs a new gentleman, a new definition of a gentleman. It needs a new alignment of ethics, and it can get it by way of architecture, because organic architecture has in it the principles. It is the center line of this thing which we would love to feel we had were we a democracy. Now a democracy ceases to talk or feel much concerning the life of the common man. As a matter of fact, is there a common man? Have you ever met one? And as for a common woman, no. There's you, there's me, and there's the other fellow. But I believe there is no common man. Nor do I believe there is what we call a public either. And I think we've wasted in all our efforts a great deal on this common man and a great deal on what we call the public. And we've not been sufficiently meticulous concerning this fellow that is ourselves. We haven't been willing to take a good look at ourselves, so how can we have an architecture that grows from within the individual, for the individual, as a creative act? You see, the cosmic ray hasn't reached us. The creative ray we don't yet know in our country. And until we do get in touch with it, until we do learn to understand its significance as we see it around us by way of nature study, by way of getting inside first ourselves and then what's around us, we aren't going to have a culture. We're not going to have an architecture, and without an architecture there is no culture. How can you have a culture living in squalid, untrue, lying conditions? You can't. So here, on this little campus, your Dr. Spivey has planted a little green shoot in the realm of the spirit, something that is true to itself, something that is true to mankind, something that insists upon integrity as a thought along the line of a culture which we missed. We have missed it to date. It is not in our great universities. It is not in our great churches. It's something that was lost long ago, at least 500 years ago. And it is now being brought again to the front for a free people in a free nation. And I don't see any smile on your faces when I make those two references. Are we a free people? Is this a free country? Can it be said to be so when it can't build anything for itself of its own? I don't think so. If we are free and we haven't built, well, then there's something very serious in the way of an indictment that can be brought against us, isn't there? Is it perhaps that we are asleep? That we have never waked up to these things that we declare, and that these things we profess and boast to possess? Have we never really had a good look at ourselves as a free people? We had a foolish president not so long ago who boasted of the 4 freedoms. Well, the very boast is in itself a confession that we are not free when you begin to count freedoms on the fingers of your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, you're merely confessing that you are not free. And that went around the world and no one challenged it. Well, so it is. We are not free. And we have no free architecture. And we have no culture of our own. And you can go into the homes of this land from coast to coast, from border to border, and find so little manifestation of the truth of our own being outside of the shops, outside of buying and selling, outside of eating and sleeping, that it's just pitiful. Now, look upon these buildings and look upon this little college and look upon the wise doctor here as engaging in an adventure, the greatest, most important of all adventures, an adventure in the realm of the human spirit, searching for a greater harmony, a greater truth of being, and with it comes, God knows, a more blessed, richer life. Thank you.